Hi, my name is Kati Vilkki. I have been a coach and a leader, coaching teams and leaders since '96 and an agile coach since 2005. I have worked mostly with product development and software development teams and organizations from 50 to 5,000 people, mostly in multi-site, multicultural environment. And today I want to talk about how to build systematically high-performing self-organizing teams, how to create an environment where these teams naturally emerge. Self-organization is a basis for most of agile and lean methods, especially in Scrum. And there's a lot of research that shows that it has huge benefits. It increases motivation, engagement, energy at work, reduces waste in terms of, for example, management overhead or coordination, reduces complexity, enables faster learning, and so on. So overall, better results for the company, people do their work better, and better work environment for the people. So complete win-win. Now, very often what happens in organizations is that we just take a bunch of people, call them a team, and expect them to self-organize. Self-organization does not happen automatically. It can happen, but I don't think it should be left to chance. So I want to share some ideas, experiences on how to do it systematically, how to create an environment where self-organization is more likely to happen and be successful, and where teams can be high-performing. So here are some of the things to look for. Let's start with mindset and thinking. One of the key things is to rethink or think differently about what is leadership and what is the role of the leader. So traditionally, if I simplify a little bit, if I'm a middle manager, my job is to make those people there do what those people want. So the wisdom and direction goes top down in the organization. Now this needs to be changed around completely. In environment where I want to promote self-organization, my key question needs to be, what does the team need in order to create value, in order to create value for the company, for the customer? And how can I help? And do this together with the team. The role of the appointed leaders is to create a culture where there's a lot of trust, respect, very little fear, where conflict is cherished rather than shied away from, and where there are feedback mechanisms, feedback cycles built in so that teams can adjust and on their own and see what they need to do differently. So trust, the feeling of or sense of empowerment, allowing mistakes to happen, very important parts of the culture. On the skills side, there need to be people in the organization who can coach teams on their journey to become more self-organized, more high-performing, who can coach leaders on how to lead differently. Everybody needs to have some team working skills. This is usually not a huge problem, but there are a couple of things that people need to learn. One is how to receive and how to give feedback, and then the other is how to handle conflict constructively. On technology side, couple of things. Self-organizing teams can go horribly wrong unless they get regular feedback all of the time. And they need to get feedback from the product itself. So for example, continuous integration or continuous delivery pipes, test automation, and so on. Also, there are constraints to self-organization, and to reduce the constraints or to minimize them, the architecture needs to be as modular as possible. So use microservices, whatever, so that there are less dependencies between teams and teams can have more autonomy. In structures, processes, practices, how does the team get regular feedback from the customer, from the product owner, from other stakeholders? What are the structures that are needed? Performance management, rewarding practices, are they based on individual contribution or do they promote teamwork? Team setup, are teams cross-functional so that there are less dependencies, or are they functional or component teams and more dependencies? So a lot of things need to change or need to be thought of in order to have high-performing teams. Okay, the structures, processes side is especially challenging in large organizations, because there's actually two contradicting goals we have. On one hand, we want the teams to be self-organized, have autonomy. On the other hand, we need to make sure that they go sufficiently towards the same direction. Usually organizations solve this by centralizing decision-making, but this actually puts huge limitations to the self-organization. So there are other ways of doing it. A couple of examples. One, it's a really good idea to let people choose their teams rather than have line managers assign people to teams. We have conducted workshops to groups up to 60, 80 people where in the workshop people self-organize into teams using commonly agreed criteria which they have been setting also themselves. Decision making. Usually in organizations, who makes the decision and who implements it are two different things. Now we want to bring these together. Who are the people who have the needed information to make a good decision? Who are the people who need to do something to implement it? How do we involve people in decision making? When I talk about this, the first comment usually is, but we don't have time. We need to make this decision fast. I ask you to reflect on a couple of last decisions you have made in your organization from the point you have realized a decision needs to make, to actually making the decision, to having it implemented. Now usually the time from decision to implementation is the longest one. When we involve the right people in decision making, then that time is shortened. So actually it goes faster, the whole cycle goes faster. Bare minimum of common processes rather than heavy everything described processes. Replace processes by coaching, by training, by allowing people to go to other teams, coach them, train them and cross-pollinate ideas that way. A very key structure to put in place is a coach group, because this change will take time. There needs to be a team whose job it is to assess where the organization is, to learn, to be the spearhead of learning, and to teach and coach others. Coaching needs to happen on all levels of organization, from development teams to leadership teams, and this coach team should have all levels, all functions of the organization in it. So what is then the role of the leadership team in change? The main focus of the leadership team should be on the change process. How do we make this change happen? Not on the content of the change. Yes, overall goal, reasons why we do this needs to be understood, communicated by the leaders, but mostly focus on the change process, not on the solution. So two things: open questions that help people to think in a new way, create insights, and then focus on the process, workshops, trainings, whatever is needed. And then the key question, what do we need to do differently as leaders? How do we need to change in order to make this change happen? So we can create an environment where teams can grow to become self-organized, high-performing. It takes some work, it's not impossible to do, and I highly recommend, if you want to have self-organized team, higher energy workplace, more engagement, motivation, to start this journey. If you want to know more or share ideas, please get in touch with me.